Alrighty, picking up where we left off, we're going to hit up the Spanish Civil War now. So just remembering we're still part of that same survey dot point where we're looking at the collapse of collective security and how we can see that in Abyssinia, which you should have just finished. And now we're seeing that collapse of collective security in terms of the Spanish Civil War. All right, so hopefully you've worked through all these questions. You've had a crack at that practice paragraph there. And we're going to dive into that Spanish Civil War, 36-39. So you can see it's really in that kind of crux lead up to World War I phase. And that really gave Hitler plenty of ideas. So I know we've only just started, but it might be worth pausing now and having a look at this YouTube clip, which you can find on the website, which will be just below this video, and have a really quick summary of what the Spanish Civil War involved before diving into our information. So pause now, watch that video. I reckon you've done that. Come back to us. We're going to have a quote from our very favourite for this conflict in Europe topic, Mr. Anthony Beevor. Classic, very memorable historian name. So A. Beevor, we get to hang out with quite a lot this topic. So in his book, The Battle for Spain, The Spanish Civil War, which he published in 2006, Beevor writes, relations between Italy and Germany had been strained in the early summer of 1936, primarily because of their rivalry over Austria. Nevertheless, their aid to the nationalist Spain was to prove the forging of the Rome-Berlin axis, a phrase first used by Mussolini on the 1st of November 1936. So Italy was looking to expand, as we know, like Caesar and making that great Roman Empire. Austria was in their sights. Obviously, Austria was in Germany's sights as well. So there was a little bit of pushing and shoving between, not literally, but figuratively, between Mussolini and Hitler. But this reaction to the Spanish Civil War was what really cemented their alliance in the lead up to World War II. So like it says here, the Rome-Berlin Axis is the name for the coalition between Italy and Germany, which was officially formed in 1936. So, Spanish Civil War. In 1936, a civil war broke out in Spain between forces loyal to left-wing democracy and the fascist forces of General Francisco Franco. Left-wing, obviously the communists, fascists on the right, Hitler, Mussolini are both strong fascists and therefore would be backing Mr. Franco. Hitler and Mussolini supported a fellow dictator, this being Francisco, and as in the case of Abyssinia, Britain and France refused to become involved. Again, League of Nations advocated a policy of non-intervention, not getting involved. It was another failure for the League and another success for the dictators. After Franco's success in Spain, France was confronted by potentially hostile dictatorships on three sides, that being Germany, Italy, and now Spain to their south. So France was pretty scared. But again, League of Nations not in getting involved, not supporting either side, not trying to fight back against these dictators who are becoming, quite aggressive in their local areas, just not doing enough. And here's Francisco in all of his glory. Spanish Civil War represented a dress rehearsal for World War II. 1936, in July, General Francisco Franco led a military revolt against the Spanish Republic, supported by the fascist Falange Party and the nationalistic forces. So, this civil war, made up, on the left, we have the Republicans, supported the newly elected Popular Front government. They were the communists, the socialists, and the anarchists. They opposed the power of the church and landowners and sought a more equitable distribution of the nation's wealth. Similar ideas to what we're seeing with the Bolsheviks in Russia. Okay, so that's an attempted communist revolution leading to this civil war. Opposing them, on the right, the nationalists. They opposed the new government. They were the landowners, the businessmen, the devout Catholics, military officers, and the Spanish fascist party, the Falange. They opposed policies of the government and sought to maintain a much more traditional conservative Spain, as we know is the ilk of the right, that traditional conservative nationalist approach. Love and how it used to be, not how these guys want it to be. So he come back to this if you're ever confused of who we're talking about. This breaks down the kind of key ideas. This is the traditional communist revolution. This is the people fighting back to it. The Civil War soon developed in an international dimension as Fascist Italy and Nazi Germany intervened with supplies, troops, and aeroplanes in favour of Franco. For their part, pursuing the anti-fascist strategy of the Comintern, remember, Communist International, that's the group set up to actively help all other communist attempts across Europe and the world. The Soviet Union supplied Republican forces, 2,000 personnel, 1,000 aircraft, 900 tanks, armoured cars, small arms, and ammunition. Brigades of volunteers from other nations also joined the fight against fascism in Spain. So it was very much Italy, Germany fighting for the nationalists, the Soviet Union to back their communist buddies were sending troops to. It's troops and armaments. Again, just a reminder, Comintern is an international agency set up by the Russians to coordinate their activities of communist parties throughout the world. But that's fresh enough in our memory that we'll remember. The Spanish Civil War took over 500,000 lives and was marked by atrocities, such as the April 1937 terror bombing attack on the town of Guernica from the air by the German Condor Legion. This attack, which lasted 3 hours, was considered to be a preview of the end of the world and how it would appear to its victims. It was an experiment in how to destroy civilian populations from the air. Okay, German Condor Legion was the precursor for what is called the Luftwaffe, or the German Air Force, and they really just practiced what they were going to preach in World War II on this town of Guernica. Okay, and again, this is a shift in this war. All right, World War I, Western Front, fight out in the fields, soldiers killing soldiers. World War II had a very different flavour to it with the increase of technology and the ability to fly bombers across the continental Europe and over onto England as well, where civilians were now the targets, okay? And this is where Germany practiced, that Luftwaffe practiced, their firebombing of civilian populations. So the bombing of Guernica, which is a very famous event in history, was also immortalised in a famous painting by Pablo Picasso. And you can see here Picasso's classic style, which I know very little about because art history is not my thing, but you can see the death and devastation, the destruction placed all over here in Picasso's way of doing things. So Franco used propaganda and the technique of the big lie to simply deny the bombing outright. The nationalist forces under Franco created the myth that it was the people of Guernica themselves who had destroyed their city. The victims will be blamed for these atrocities as a way of shedding responsibility. It looked bad to be bombing towns, but hey, they just went with the old Donald Trump way of just saying it's not true. Franco had won the Civil War by 1939. He established harsh authoritarian rule, and opponents of the regime were either interned in concentration camps or killed in classic dictator form. The real significance of the Spanish Civil War lay in its international aspect. Well, I'm sure it was quite significant for the Spanish too, but in terms of our topic, the international aspect. Britain and France pursued that policy of non-intervention and refused to openly support the Republicans, even though they were supporting democratic institutions. They did not stand up for the side they supported, and therefore that side lost. British citizens were also discouraged from joining the volunteer groups helping the Republicans, even though a whole lot of people did join anyway. Some very famous people too. Germany and Italy claimed to be non-interventionist, but as we read earlier, they both sent a large amount of weapons, troops, aircraft and tanks to assist the nationalists. At one stage, there were 60,000 Italian volunteers fighting in Spain, and the German fighter jets who turned up the Condor, as we call them, or those will know soon, the Luftwaffe, were there too. So Germany and Italy claimed international scale, no, we're not doing anything, but very much we're fighting for Franco. Okay. So, significance of the Spanish Civil War. If you were asked to talk about the significance of that war in terms of the breakdown of collective security and the impact on the League of Nations, here is what you might write. The significance of the Spanish Civil War was that it was further consolidated the divisions within Europe, which in turn heightened tensions prior to the outbreak of World War II. The Spanish Civil War started in July 1936 when a group of military officers based in Spanish Morocco revolted. Franco led the rebel forces and their aim was to destroy the godless government and reinstate the power of the Catholic Church. By the end of 1936, Franco's fascist forces had taken control of half of Spain. By the end, the Republicans led by Caballero were supported by the Soviets, and thousands of young people from around the world joined the Republicans' cause. Though Britain and France were generally supportive of the Republicans, they adopted a policy of non-intervention. German and Italian support of the nationalists was important in cementing the Axis partnership, and it also gave Germany an opportunity to test its Luftwaffe's capabilities in the bombing of Guernica. The events of the Spanish Civil War highlighted the incapacity of the League of Nations to effectively deal with conflict in Europe. A very fancy paragraph filled with information you didn't have, but interesting still to see. All right. What you need to do now is pause this video, work your way through here, all right, fill in the gaps as we've done so much of lately, and then mark it together as a group, back someone, or just do what we normally do and read it out and just call out the words as we go. I'm sure you guys can do that. Once you're ready, you guys can come back. Actually, no, don't even go yet. Stay around. Here's an example question, which is only going to cover part of this one. There's also another couple of dot points, but it's worth thinking about. Creating a plan for your response. How might you talk about Abyssinia and the Spanish Civil War in answering this question? It's not going to answer the whole question, but for those two paragraphs, maybe chuck down a plan on this page here, what sorts of things you might include on it, okay? How is the League of Nations, whether it was effective or not, in maintaining peace? The answer is not very effective, and how did Abyssinia, Spanish Civil War reflect that lack of effectiveness? Okay, all right. Now you can pause. You can head back to here to the Spanish Civil War, work through that for me, and that will be us for the booklet for this week. Very soon we will talk about your assessment task, but hey, spoilers, we'll get to that. Good luck. Please work hard. Make sure you are using your booklets. Go back and cover anything you missed from the previous videos. And I'll see you guys soon.